But yeah, I remember in my extended family when I said that to them, they were like, "Oh, it's just a phase. You will come around." And that's something, gay people are often told too. They're like, "Oh, it's a phase," But that ship has sailed.
Hello everybody and welcome to an episode of Hello Humanists, where I talk to humanists from all over the world. And my guests are here with me today. Please introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, I am Surabhi. I'm from India, and I identify as atheist, humanist, and a feminist.
Hi, I'm Janice, and I'm a PhD researcher. I study the subject of abortion in India. Yeah.
And you're a humanist as well.
I would say more feminist, but yes, humanist.
So hello humanists, hello humanists. India, what's the situation there? Like, how is it for humanists? Can they live a happy life? Is it hard for them? What's the story?
Well, I mean, India is a deeply religious country, and right now with the current government that we have in power, the lines between governance and religion and state and religion have really blurred. So it is not a good time to say that you do not have faith, especially of Hindu faith. But I think there's still sort of like an underground community of humanists and atheists and freethinkers who really have found spaces, especially online, safe spaces to come together and talk about issues that bring them together, talk about how to actually advocate better on behalf of freethinkers and humanists around the country. But I think it's still very sort of secret and underground, and that's for issues of safety and backlash that they might face if we come out in the open.
Would you agree?
So the thing is that India is a secular country, but the idea of secularism is very different from the European idea of secularism. Over here, religious tolerance is what is understood as secularism. So it is that the government accepts and acknowledges the faith, belief, and practices of all religions. Whereas in European understanding of secularism is that the state and religion is completely separated.
Okay.
So this becomes extremely...
Although that's not true for a lot of countries.
Although that is not true. But in India, because the idea of secularism is about acknowledging religion instead of denying religion, it creates complexity in terms of creating a dominant religion and minority religions. And it's also about power and access to resources and access to who wins political power. And so religion becomes controversial because the state and even several political parties tap into vote banks based on religion.
Yeah.
So the idea of secularism in India itself is a complex one and a controversial one.
I see.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for humanists like you? What does the influence or the overly, the favor that the government gives Hinduism, what does that mean for humanists and people who are generally in India?
Well, I mean, I think right now, the way the situation is, people from minority religions are facing very concrete backlash, very physical violence they have experienced over the past few years because of the government in power right now. But I think for humanists, we don't see that as something that people put out as an identity very openly, right? So you only say you're a humanist or you're an atheist or someone who doesn't believe in organized religion when you know that people around you are not going to be pouncing on you about it, right?
Yeah.
So there's a very acute awareness that where can you share that view openly? And that often happens on closed or secret groups on Facebook, for instance. But I mean, to be quite honest, in very public conversations, I've never really seen people who represent humanism actually out in a debate. It's happening more maybe in local conversations, or on Facebook, like I said, but not in public discourse. Yeah, it's really not visible or represented.
And the other thing is that in India, people just assume you have a religion without asking you if you have one. So it's not an individual thing, it's like a group or community thing. So my name is like Janice, and if I tell my name to somebody, they'll be like, you're Christian. You know, they'll be like, oh, it's a European name, so you're definitely like Christian because of the missionary influences, you know. And similarly, with your name, people can tell which religion you are from or which area in the country, your caste, which region you are from. And so these kind of microaggressions and discriminations happen against like Muslims or Christians or, you know, other minority religious communities like Buddhists.
Or against Dalits.
Or against Dalits, which is a caste group, not a religious group. And so in India, your religion is not your spiritual adherence, but it becomes a community marker and identity. And it carries a set of privileges and disadvantages. And there are these complex hierarchies which you can't really explain clearly, but that's how religion works.
Yeah, and I mean, I think just to add on to what Janice was saying, like the point about privilege, I, as someone who lives in a big metro city, someone who comes from an upper caste and class. For me to say that I am a humanist or an atheist is a lot easier than someone from a smaller town who maybe is from a lower caste and class, and they can have very very physical repercussions to actually professing
so
that.
Violence
Threats
or
violence. Threats, lynchings have been very common in India right now. And so I also have to acknowledge my privilege when I say that I can proclaim my identity without any threat of retribution, right away. But for other people, that might not be the case.
So you already mentioned this a bit earlier, that there are Facebook groups. So are these Facebook groups sort of like a word of mouth thing when, hey, you're a friend, you're an atheist, an agnostic, you're a humanist, join this group? Or is it something more than that? And does it kind of try to promote the ideals of, skepticism and humanism and free thought?
I know there are some pages that are more public. So there's a page called Indian Atheist, which, and there's another one. I think that's a global one, which shares content on people who profess atheism. But I think for me, the introduction to the Facebook group happened because I actually met physically the Delhi chapter of Indian Atheists. And that's how I got connected to Facebook. So it was like offline to online.
I see.
They do not sort of like promote it like very openly. And it's also because you can have imposters coming in and joining in and spewing their propaganda. So it's also, I think they do that, they add you only after they sort of do a vetting process.
I see. So how did you get into humanist? How did you become humanist in this very religious context? And do your families know? Tell me about their reaction to it as well. Hi, Mom.
No, they know.
Okay.
But I mean, so I did my higher education in the United States, and even before that, growing up, my parents are quite liberal. Although, we grew up Hindu, we weren't ever forced to go to a temple or pray every day, and my parents never forced that practice upon us either. And in college, I started reading more about atheism and humanism, and I think I was really excited to know that there's something beyond organized religion, and the fact that we really need to start thinking of how this can have long-term consequences for people when we do not question what we are taught, and how it actually really interferes with our identities that we take on as we grow older, but also they really impact our human rights as an individual. So that was the process for me. I started reading things. Of course, Richard Dawkins' The God Delusion was an introduction, although I have my own critiques of that book now, but that was the stepping stone. And then I met some other people who were also, atheists in college. And when I told my parents about this, they were like, okay, cool, whatever. But I remember when I told my grandmother, she was like, oh, so you go to church now? And I was like, no, that's not it.
That's the opposite of it.
Yeah, and I think for some people in my extended family who also know, because then I stopped really like doing any idol worship, which is a huge part of Hinduism, and really also celebrating festivals. I still like celebrating in the sense I like to be with my family or meet my friends, but I don't participate in any prayers or stuff like that. And it also, like, I think as an evolving feminist ideology, it was a huge like sort of propellant for me to start questioning these practices, which are also very deeply patriarchal. But yeah, I remember in my extended family when I said that to them, they were like, oh, it's just a phase, you will come around. And that's something, gay people are often told too. They're like, oh, it's a phase, but that ship has sailed.
What about you?
Yeah, so my family is very religious and they're Christian. And being from a minority religious community in India, they also are a bit ethnocentric about their religion, okay? I feel like I started really questioning organized religion around the time I was like a teenager, because I just felt like, and I was taken to church every Sunday as a child. Like my parents were they are still really devout Christians, and they're very active in their religion, in the practice of their religion. And I was taken to church every Sunday as a child, and somewhere where I was a teenager, I felt like the things that were being told in like church and the way people around in the church were behaving did not match, and I felt like this doesn't make sense. This is
hypocrisy.
It's hypocrisy, and I felt like I definitely started thinking more critically about it at that time. When I did my undergraduate studies in the same city that my parents live in, so I lived at home while studying for my and at that time I stopped going to church, and my parents, actually a little before that I stopped, and then my parents were very upset, and my mom would be like, I don't know what did I do wrong that but eventually I feel like over the years she's learned to be more okay about my choices, but I don't think she's fully okay yet. She still tries to say that, oh, it's Christmas, at least today, please go to church, kind of a thing.
Of course, it's no secret to us that humanists can be and try to be good people, right?
Yeah, of course.
So how does that aspect of trying to help humanity live their best life, like how do you live that?
It's interesting because
we're part of the. I just noticed, like we're in a conference, a women's health, women's rights, safe abortion rights conference right now, and I'm still wearing the tag. So please go ahead.
No, but I mean that's an interesting point because the most common claim people make is, oh, did you know Hitler was an atheist? And I was like, what? Like how does that relate to anything we were talking about? I think the point is that when we associate morality only with religion, that really confounds a lot of things. I think you can be a good person and you can empathize with people without actually having any organized religious beliefs. And that's more about your own personal compass that you develop over time. And I think everyone really wants to do good, and people can do that without religious
with or
beliefs.
without right?
Yeah. So I agree with most of the things Surabhi said right now. And of course, like your value system and your moral compass doesn't have to be connected to a religion. It can just be humanity,
humanity.
And just being kind and caring and, happy towards other people. I feel the challenge with not the challenge would be the wrong word, but I feel like we also need to acknowledge that for many people in this world, religion is important and it is personal. Because I've seen my parents' attitude towards religion, and for them it's a matter of faith, of immense faith and immense personal validation. And I wouldn't discount their experience of religion, but I choose to have a different opinion about it. And as long as everyone is not imposing their religion on other people or their values and ideas on other people, it should be okay. People should have the choice to do what they want. And I'm extremely pro-choice, and that's how I'm at this conference for abortion, safe abortion rights.
But I think, unfortunately, organized religion cannot work without forcing people into believing something, like as a
some
collective.
coercion.
There is an element of coercion always. I mean, for organized religion to survive, that has to be at the core of it. We may not call it coercion, but it's something that's bringing people together, right? And so, inevitably, it is impacting people's choices, the choices they make in their bedrooms, for instance, or the choices they make in their lives. I mean, it is being driven by religion. So, I mean, I agree with you. Like, I would really hope that people reciprocate that to who do not believe in organized religion. That doesn't happen.
But people who are part of organized religion become really ethnocentric and judgmental is what I feel. Okay? And it doesn't have to be like Hinduism or Christianity, it's across religions, People become really ethnocentric and they start feeling like what they think is the right thing to do is the only thing to do. And I feel like that's my biggest problem with organized religion. And
So what final messages can you give to the humanists and even the non-humanists who are watching this episode right now?
I think I would say do not let anything really suppress your will to question and be curious about things. I think that's how we will really evolve as a species, and that's how we've evolved since since we came into being. And so I think whether you believe in a religion or you do not, I think just do not. Even within atheism, there's now a problem sometimes of like having really hardcore beliefs that they do not let others question. So it's also like you're sort of replicating the same thing that organized religion is doing. So I would say that, just keep that flame of like questioning and being curious.
I think I would agree with Surabhi. And I think it's very important to think critically about any kind of organized body, whether it's religious, non-religious, the government, a Facebook group that you're joining. If it's an organized space, it's time to think about critically about all the spaces you would like to be a part of.
Thank you for being with us. And if you want to see more of Hello Humanists, be sure to follow this page. And until next episode, see you.
Bye.